Hey everyone, it's Brad and Josh here, and we welcome you back, or for the first time, to We'll Bring the Popcorn, your favorite film and TV podcast.
On today's show, we're going to be reviewing Gareth Edwards' Jurassic World Rebirth, as well as Blumhouse's new film, M3GAN 2.0.
Yeah, so my neighbors decided to mow on a holiday weekend that's celebrated at night at 7:45 in the morning. Like, that is fun. Like, hey, yeah, everyone's been up all night setting off fireworks, or we had a birthday party, and like, let's start mowing at 7:45.
It's just one of those things, man, that you'd figure noise ordinances would be in effect, but some people just don't care. Like, I get it. It's been hot. Like, it's the middle of the summer. It's going to get hotter the later in the day you do it. But anything before, like, 9 or 10 a.m. is just obscene. And
especially Sunday on a holiday weekend, you're up mowing that early.
Hey, if an errant, firework goes off near your house, it wasn't us.
Yeah, so Josh, you can tell for a little bit his voice is not with him today. We didn't have a whole lot of interesting news this week, so we're just going to jump right into our two reviews. I'm going to kick it off with M3GAN 2.0. So this is a sequel to M3GAN, Blumhouse's horror comedy that they did. It's set 2 years after M3GAN, but it kind of abandons the horror. It goes straight sci-fi action comedy, and it does it with very mixed results. This felt like a film where they didn't really know what they wanted to do, so they just threw as much stuff in as they could, and it just didn't really mesh well to me. It was just like, you kept jumping back and forth, and we're going to do heavy spoilers. It's been a couple weeks now since this has come out, but it felt like it jumped around so much, and with horror films, you definitely, reality and making sense, you kind of throw out the window. When they change it from being horror to action sci-fi comedy, you're kind of looking for a cohesive story, and it really wasn't there, because we pick up that Gemma has kind of moved on from the AI. She started another business where they're still making tech, but they're trying to make tech without AI or anything else in it. But of course, you bring in another guy who owns a company who does chips that he puts, neurochips and stuff, and you bring him in wanting her to work for him, but it all just didn't work very well for me.
Yeah, it didn't mesh well. It felt like what they were trying to make was like Terminator 2 almost, kind of, because there were a lot of allusions and like similarities in what they were trying to put together. So you have this new artificial intelligent bot named Amelia that's like this upgraded version of M3GAN, right? That could be this tactical military, type entity, and it goes haywire right off the gate, and you have this rogue renegade, artificially intelligent, sentient type being attacking, people, and you have to go to Old Faithful and M3GAN to kind of help, save the day here. It felt very Terminator 2-esque, but this was very much not Terminator 2, obviously. Like, it was completely over the top, and I think they kind of toned it down, where you still have some of that action, a little bit of that brutality, but not on the same level. It's like they abandoned what made M3GAN unique in like its storytelling, and kind of just threw it out the window and decided to make an action film as the second one. And I just think they've really missed the mark with that, because this just... It didn't hit where it needed to hit, and it felt almost kind of rushed together. And we're like, okay, now we're just gonna make M3GAN like this action superhero-y kind of character, and it just didn't work. There were so many misses on this for me that I think they definitely missed the mark on this one.
Yeah, because like I said, they tried a few things that you could put in the horror realm a little bit, but it was never scary. It was never frightening, never really felt like horror. I mean, you've got M3GAN a bit chopped up, kind of looking like a brutalized Chucky doll, but it wasn't really horror-wise. And yeah, it was, it tries to bring in that the military had created Amelia based off of M3GAN's AI that they were able to get, because that was leaked in the first. But yeah, it just kind of picks up with Gemma and Katie, but I'll be honest, I did not like Gemma at all. There was no growth to these characters. Again, if you're taken away from horror and you're trying to make it into something else, you got to give us a little something that expands it. Gemma was still very highly annoying with what she did and stuff, and I think it's what the movie was. It would do this, and they would take a step back and do this. Then it would do this forward, then they would take a step back. So every time they took a step forward, they took a step back, because you would have M3GAN, okay, M3GAN hid herself away after the first film. It turns out, which ludicrously with the story, well, she was able to bring herself into this building, then take it over and basically be the landlord of this building that Gemma's able to rent for dirt cheap to have her home and her business in the same building, while also building a bunker underneath it where she creates a Johnny Five type of robot for her to build stuff with, which, like, the plausibility of, okay, she can take over a smart home, but how did she get in this building? Because she was in the smart device at their old house. But how did she create a robot and create an entire bunker and do all this? And that continued on because whatever they touched that had technology throughout the rest of the film, M3GAN just puts a little bit of herself in like every little piece of technology. So she can never die because she's always just putting herself in everything. Like, there were some funny parts and some fun parts, especially when they first realized that M3GAN was alive and they put her in that little bitty toy robot and she has that reaction like, okay, you have no Bluetooth, you have no Wi-Fi, and she's like, just in the lines, and that stuff was funny, but the rest of it just felt like, rip off of T2. There was even a joke we made about X-Men because Amelia at the end looks like Storm, and I made the Toad joke about, what happens to a toad when it's hit by lightning? What happens to everybody else?
Right.
Like, that's what it felt like, but it felt as corny and bad as that line was in the X-Men film. It just, they tried a bunch of different things, and just none of it really worked for me.
Yeah, I think they were looking for like a different tone to set for the film, and I just don't think it worked. Like, the marketing of it was very clearly like, hey, we're turning this into an action film, and we're trying to have some corny one-liners and some cheap chuckles. And there were some funny moments in this film, but man, like, the plot felt so disjointed. You kind of had to, not that it's always a bad thing, but you have to kind of turn your brain off when you're watching like a film like this. And in some cases that works, and I don't have an issue with it. But for this one, it didn't feel like it connected where it needed to connect for me. And it, like you said, there was no character growth with Gemma from the first film to the second film.
She's still doing the same ridiculous stuff.
Yeah, except now she's on this like advocacy against artificial intelligence now, and that's kind of where she lands here. But it's hypocritical because she had a copy of M3GAN saved anyway that she knowingly had and was keeping hidden from Katie this entire time. Like, it was just so weird, man. And just like, she came off very hypocritical in a lot of ways here, but like, she was not trusting of M3GAN, but she's the reason M3GAN was still around. Kind of like, it just made no sense, like, from like a narrative perspective. But yeah, I mean, the very obvious allusions to Terminator 2 in this that they tried. Terminator 2, in my opinion, is one of the best sequels ever made, and I get having the ambition to try to take it there, because Terminator 2, for all intents and purposes, was like a ramped up, amplified version of the original Terminator.
And
like,
you did take the horror elements kind of out of what Terminator had, but it did it so much better. Right,
and I think it's what they were aiming for, which is fine. It's a lofty goal, and you want to aim as high as you possibly can. I just don't think it was executed as well as it could have been. And like I said, it had some moments where we genuinely laughed at some things. There were some funny moments in there, but it just felt like it was written by people who were trying, like, I hate to say this, but it felt like it was written by people who were trying to sound younger than they were, if that makes any sense. Trying to appeal to, like, a younger demographic, and this is what happens, like, I say when, people that are maybe in their 50s and 60s are trying to write movies for, teenagers and early 20s. Like,
hello, you fellow young kids.
Yeah, I imagine the Steve Buscemi gif is like, hello, fellow kids. Like I imagine that, like, as an example here, but it just felt like it was trying too hard to appeal to a younger demographic, and I don't think it worked well.
Yeah, this was definitely a film that felt like it was trying too hard overall. Just, as you said, Gemma didn't feel like she grew at all. She was still that same annoying where she would be, she's on Katie's side or she's on M3GAN's side, and then all of a sudden she's doing something, just ignoring Katie or ignoring M3GAN or ignoring everybody else and doing whatever she wants, and she goes back to being the other way, and she just bounces back and forth, and M3GAN bounces around so much that, all right, she's good, she's bad, she's good, she's bad, she's good, she's bad. It does it a little too much. And then Amelia didn't really have any depth to her. We thought, okay, maybe we'll see some decent action sequences or we'll see something crazy out of her, which we got one or two. But then Amelia kind of became a side character to the family drama and them trying to do all that and dealing with the bunker and bringing M3GAN back to life and everything else. It had so many ideas that it was trying that it just felt like none of them really worked in the end. It all just felt like really weird. And you add in the story as well that they have this rogue AI that Amelia's apparently going after because it was created by a fax and printer company back in the 80s or something. So for 20, 30 or it was a while ago. I don't even remember when it was, but it said it's been sitting for 20, 30, 40 years, growing, learning, so that this could be the AI that destroys the world. And they have it, just sitting inside of their building, that this fax and printer company has this like extreme security where they have like 30 floors and they have armed security guards on every level and they have it under this big technological lock and keys. It's like, okay, it's a printer and fax company has this like Lex Luthor type of cave underneath their printer company. And it's like, and like the kind of main villain that you end up seeing was the main villain kind of all along. He was just a typical, stereotypical type of revolutionist guy who's trying to end technology, even though he's really not, but he is. Because it was like, okay, I need you all to be quiet. I got a Zoom call with the Department of Defense or something, or the U.S. Embassy, or NATO. And it's like, okay, yeah, you all be quiet. I'm just going to go one door away when there's 6 floors underneath here. Yeah. Well, everyone else is outside your window, so we can, of course, it sets up, for the shenanigans to happen. But it was a mess. Like, I hadn't really watched M3GAN before until a couple weeks ago when I watched it before M3GAN 2.0 come out, and we saw it a little later because of Josh being out of town and everything. And I enjoyed for what it was, and this just felt like a step backwards.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like it had a little bit of an identity crisis here, right? Like, it was trying to be something that it didn't necessarily need to be, and I guess, I don't know, if they just couldn't figure out a way to amplify the horror elements of it a second time, and they kind of just decided to pivot and make it into like this action film, but it just misses so many marks for me that like it's a fine movie, I guess, but it really struggled along to have any type of, like I said, identity, and the dialogue's not the best. The people's motivations aren't the best. Like, the plot is very, very thin for what could have been a complex situation, right? And it felt like it was lacking a lot of cohesiveness for me. Like, it just, like you said, it jumps around a lot. It jumps around in like focus, and I think it really struggled in that case. And it just, for whatever reason, man, it just didn't hit all the right notes for me that it needed to hit. Like, the first one was kind of a fun, newer type take, and I think the writing on that one was significantly better than the writing on this one. And you had that horror element, you had the danger of the artificial intelligence, bot kind of doing whatever it takes to fulfill its directive. In this case, it was a lot more sentient and learning and dealing with complicated emotional things and things like that. And it didn't connect for me the way that I was hoping it would. And it just really missed the mark. Like I said, it struggled to find its identity and keep a plot that just made, in the end, no sense. Like, there were so many issues I had with it that it's one of those that doesn't have a high rewatchability for me at all.
Yeah, M3GAN 2.0 was in the end a disappointment. It left the horror elements behind to try to be a sci-fi action comedy, but none of it really worked. The story felt like it was slapped together, pieced together. You had no character growth. Even with something horror-wise, you don't really expect a lot of that. But it's the same annoyances that we saw in the first movie with some of the characters are still there. We got so much back and forth of characters just, well, I'm this way now, I'm this way, I'm this way, I'm doing that. It just didn't work. There was just so much that didn't work. It tried to be a Terminator 2 clone. It failed miserably at trying to do that. We'll see if it does end up getting a third, to see if they go back and maybe go back to horror and change it up a little, because it was a horror comedy, and this just went straight sci-fi action comedy, which the action wasn't that great. The sci-fi elements were kind of laughable, and the comedy only hit a few times. So I'm giving this a 5. It was a very kind of mediocre film that just didn't really have an identity.
Yeah, and I landed in the exact same spot. I'm giving it a 5 as well, and it's unfortunate because I really did enjoy the first one a lot, and it's just one of those movies. Like I said, it struggles to find its identity. It's disjointed. The writing's not the best. The dialogue's not the best. There's next to no character development for anyone outside of Megan. And this,
even, yeah,
which
she was
even
still
then, it
all over
wasn't
the place.
that much. Like, she was still fighting her instincts right throughout this whole film. And I see what they were trying to do. It just didn't hit all the execution points that, I was kind of hoping to see it taken this next one. Like you said, it felt like a very unnecessary attempt to clone Terminator 2, which is a fantastic film in its own right, but it just didn't have any of those elements that you needed to make that story as special as it was in this film, and it just missed the mark on so many points for me. I have to give it a 5 because it felt like it just rammed up against the wall and killed any momentum it had. I don't know box office wise how well it's doing. Like, I saw that it was really struggling at the box office, which is unfortunate. You hope these movies do well, but I think audiences are going to kind of agree with us here that it just missed the mark really badly. And if this is the last we see of Megan, then hopefully it just kind of goes out with a whimper instead of a roaring franchise that I think they were trying to hope it turned into. And I don't think it's going to be the case for this.
And so M3GAN 2.0 is still in theaters right now. We don't know how long of a run it's going to have because of the disappointing box office. So, most movies are having kind of that 18-day window. It's kind of in towards the end of that. So if you want to go check it out, go check it out. It'll probably be on demand and streaming soon. But yeah, it was unfortunately a big disappointment.
Yeah, I would agree. It's definitely one that normally we go and advocate seeing it in theaters, and if you want to give it a shot, by all means, go do it. If you think we're wrong on this, tell us we're wrong. Come join us in Discord. Come, leave a comment on this video if you're watching us on YouTube, and let us know, did you enjoy it? Do you think we're missing the mark on our criticism? We'd love to have that conversation.
And so our other film this week is Jurassic World Rebirth, which I'll be honest, I'm really torn on exactly how I felt on this one. This takes place about 5 years after Jurassic World Dominion. It's got Scarlett Johansson as Zora Bennett, who's kind of this mercenary who can take out a lot of stuff, while you have a medical group who decides they want to get some specific dinosaur DNA to be able to create some new medicine, mainly for like heart disease and more. But where the dinosaurs are now, the ones that are still living and thriving, all governments have said you can't go, you're not allowed, so they need someone who can go in behind everything, get the dinosaurs' DNA, and get out. And honestly, that's about as deep as the film kind of goes. Is really strange because you kind of expected. You got the Jurassic Park trilogy, then you had the Jurassic World trilogy. So when they decided to call this Jurassic World Rebirth, I'm like, all right, is this going to be somewhat of a direct continuation of the Jurassic World series? Is it talked about how it was going to be kind of a throwback to the Jurassic Park films and stuff as well, because you got the original writer from the first Jurassic Park, David Koepp, wrote this. You got Gareth Edwards, who directed it, who last did a really great sci-fi film that made me kind of excited to see. But we did talk about it last year, how it was kind of announced that they were doing this film. It would be out in a year, and they weren't even done with the script. So we did have some worries about it before it even came out.
Yeah, legitimate concerns that it felt like they were going to stick, extensively to the script of what was written, not really change too much or really get in there and just kind of crank the film out and let it happen. And in some ways, it kind of feels like that. I will say that right out of the gate, out of the start of the film, I'm never going to look at a Snickers bar the same way again, just based on, how the film actually starts. If you watch the film, you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, man, like this one, it feels, in title, it feels like a continuation of Dominion, but in tone and the feel of the film tried to replicate more of that original Jurassic Park magic. And there's so many like Easter eggs and callbacks to the original Jurassic Park film that I think they tried to recapture some of that magic. And I don't know, it definitely isn't on par with the original Jurassic Park, which is one of, in my opinion, one of my favorite movies of all time, just because it's so good, so well done, so original, that I think they tried to capture some of that, but it doesn't have quite the same charm and real elements of danger that you had in there. Like, there's elements of danger in the film, and it feels it, but I wasn't as emotionally feeling it like I had that feeling when I had seen Jurassic Park for the first time. You know what I'm saying? Like, there were some very obvious callbacks to the original with, the banner that was literally the same banner they used in Jurassic Park, and some of the dinosaur chase scenes were shot very similarly to the original Jurassic Park, but like I feel like the plot of the film and the through line of it, the need to get these dinosaurs' DNA felt very thin. Because it was like, okay, we need these for heart disease. Well, why do we need dinosaur DNA to do this? Well, it's because they have bigger hearts. And I'm like, is that the reason you need it? Like, it felt kind of like, okay, this is why we're going to the island. Sure, let's go for the ride and see where it takes us. There were some elements that I think in this film were very strong. There were some very strong elements. I like the family element of it. To kind of try to add a little bit of heart and circumstance to it with the family. I like the family, especially like the little girl. She was really good in it. Some of that cohesiveness there. I think try to add a little bit of heart rather than this cold, callous corporation that's just on this mission to get the job done. So I think they had that to add a little bit of an emotional element to it. Because you didn't really feel it from the stars of the film, which, I mean, Scarlett Johansson and Mahershala Ali are both phenomenal actors in their own right, but their motivations were very paper thin. Like, you tried to have the element with, Mahershala Ali's Duncan, who, is dealing with the loss of his kid and how that's affecting him, which plays a little bit into his actions in the film, but it's very thin motivation, in my opinion. Like, they didn't have that gravitas to it, really, that I was kind of hoping for, but I really feel like I'm so torn on what I want to feel about this too, because there were some really, really good elements of the movie, but then there was just some that I was just sitting there like really, like, is this why we're doing this? Like it doesn't feel as urgent like as it probably should. I don't know. I think it suffered from a little bit of a pacing problem, in my opinion. That's just how I feel about it.
You see, I feel a little differently on the family. I felt like the family was kind of forced upon the movie, that it felt like it was just a plot device. Like, it was for that to add a little more drama, to add a little more of that, because it's like you have this area that's supposed to be no one's allowed in, but you have a dad who decides to take his 2 daughters and the oldest daughter's boyfriend to sail across, and didn't even really ever say why. He's like, well, we've done it before. There was no real motivation while he was out there in the sailboat, and they get stranded because we learn that the Mosasaurus and Spinosaurus are tracking people down. And we're going to go a bit spoilery with this as well, because we kind of need to a little bit to talk about why we're disappointed in it. But, they capsize as a sailboat, and they call for an SOS, and, Scarlett Johansson's crew is out there, and they hear it, and you get that, trying to get that human element to them, like, all right, we have the Mosasaurus right here that we're trying to get the DNA from, but we got the distress call that's like 28 miles away. Well, of course, the big corporate guy wants, hey, you need to get this. Well, they go and save the family, and they just felt shoehorned into me. Like, there were some good scenes because they were the main part of the T-Rex river scene, which was from the original Jurassic Park novel that they put in. But I was also a little mixed on that scene. Like, it was a great action sequence, but if you try to look at the logic of, okay, the T-Rex was laying down sleeping, and she blows up a big raft and throws it down, but you never hear the T-Rex stand up and get away. It's able to get out of view without you hearing, because we know from 6 other films that when a T-Rex walks, you hear it, you feel it, you know it, but it was able to get up, sneak away, and go to the river. While it was looking at the big inflatable raft falling, it ignored it then, but when it comes around to see, plus that river, like, it was crazy how the depth changed. Because 1 second, it's really shallow where they're able to walk through it, and the T-Rex is able to walk through it. Then the T-Rex can swim through it, and then the T-Rex stands up after swimming through it, and it's not even up to its ankles. Like, it was really inconsistent with how deep that water is. But I didn't despise a family. I really disliked the boyfriend and wanted him to get his comeuppance. So I was cheering most of the movie for him because he was so annoying. They just felt shoehorned into forced drama, to force this and that, and it just didn't feel great. Like, it was beautifully shot. I love the cinematography. Gareth Edwards is a great director. He made it look well. This was one of our worries, that he probably wasn't going to have much say or control, that it was just going to be what the studio wanted, and he was just basically filming something because they wanted him to film, and it did kind of feel like that. You think this is starting a new trilogy, but really it's not, because it didn't feel like it set up anything for the future, because you're dealing with yet another lab and another island, or another part of the island, which apparently Jurassic Park had 376 different labs and stuff set around where they were doing experiments. But of course, the Snickers bar sets everything off to make chaos go, and you're introduced to the new D-Rex and a few other hybrids and stuff. But the dinosaurs were kind of secondary to the humans in here, but I also feel the dinosaurs felt more alien. Like, I know you were going with mutations, but they felt more alien.
I get your argument for that. I don't completely agree with it, but I do kind of see what you're saying, though. But yeah, the whole T-Rex thing was just silly and absurd because, one, how can you not see a lying, sleeping Tyrannosaurus Rex anywhere close? Because that is a ginormous dinosaur. How you couldn't see it the entire time, but all of a sudden, he's just laying on his side, all cute and sleepy, like a little sleepy boy. Yeah, go over there and pet him, see what happens. But like you said, the fact that he was able to stand up and sneak off while you couldn't see it, absolutely impossible. That was a terrible choice. It was a dumb call made to add a little bit of extra drama to a scene that didn't really need it because there was a real existential threat of a freaking T-Rex there. Like, the T-Rex is dangerous. The T-Rex is the danger. He can make all the noise he wants, and he's still terrifying. Like, don't give me a sneaking T-Rex. Like, that was a bad choice, but that scene was still fun. Like,
it was fun, yeah.
Elements of it, and we're kind of nitpicking some of the particular details about this just because we feel so strongly about how much we love Jurassic Park anyway. I mean, obviously we have merchandise here that Brad's wearing. Go to our new merch store, by the way, cheap plug. But it's just, there were some choices that they made that just kind of leave you scratching your head a little bit, but it's interesting that we see the two different opinions on the. I feel like the boyfriend got a little bit of redemption.
He did, but I still wanted him to get eaten.
That's the dad in you talking, and it makes me laugh so much as a girl dad that I can see why you would have that opinion. But like, I get it. It's funny seeing your perspective on that because I know exactly where you're coming from when you feel that way. But it feels like it tried in some elements. It did work. I mean, we could talk about what did work in the film. Like the chase scenes with the dinosaurs, when they got to it was really well done. Like, I think the chase scenes and everything, like, they nailed that part of it. There was a really fantastic scene where they're getting the DNA from the humongous Titanosaurus. Like, that was a really cool, felt like an ode to the OG Jurassic Park about the whimsical nature of dinosaurs and how, like, the ones that aren't terrifying and trying to eat you are very beautiful, majestic type creatures, and I think that scene was shot really well and done really well. And
my only problem with the Titanosaurs in there was they did feel a little alien because of that long tail. The tail was as long as their entire body and neck, and the way they had it snake around and stuff. And they actually cut a scene from that, if you hadn't seen that. They were going to have a mating sequence that scene between the gigantic dinosaurs, because if you've seen the scene, they were pretty lovey-dovey, but that would have been really weird. But it was just the insanely snaky length of the tail made it feel very alien to me. Like, they didn't seem as... I know these are supposed to be mutations, but they felt more alien than that.
So you're not down for some dino love, man? What are you trying to...
Hey, I don't judge a dino love.
I love that, though. But yeah, I get what you're saying, though. But, like, my issue with the pacing of the film, and this film is like a little over 2 hours. It's about 2 hours and 15 minutes total runtime if you include the credits, but it suffered from a little bit of a pacing to get to the action a little bit. Like, I feel like I wanted more of the action and the danger than what we got, because it felt like so much more exposition and focus on the people, which is fine, but it didn't have the balance that I was hoping for, where when they did get to the chases, they were good, but it felt like so little of the film. Like, the scenes that they did were really well done, and I kind of wish they'd had a little bit more of that danger of the dinosaurs, because the whole point of the island was like, these things are dangerous. You're not allowed to travel there. There's an element of danger. These dinosaurs were experimented on, and they're mutated, and they're dangerous. And that's why it's on this isolated island that you're not supposed to travel to. And it didn't always have that element of danger attached to it until they were literally forced to be chased by, the different types of dinosaurs that there were. And when they got to it, they did it well. I just feel like they took a little bit too long to really get there and really add in that extra element of danger that existed, because On the water, the water chase scenes were really cool with the Mesosaurus as well, with like the real danger. It felt very Jaws-like, in my opinion, like they're, it had some Jaws type elements to it. Dealing with the raptor pterodactyls that they were trying to deal with, the flying carnivore dinosaurs that they were dealing with was pretty cool, but it felt like it took too long to get there. And we got there, it didn't kind of stay as long as I was hoping it would. So it kind of knocks it a little bit for me. Like when they got to it, they did a great job with it. I just wanted more of that, and I felt like it was a little lacking for me in that area.
I did want to touch on, like, you talked about the amount of throwbacks, and I think it works for, but also works against this film as well, because you mentioned you get the T-Rex skeleton and the banner falling. You've got scenes where, they do a camera shot of a side mirror that says objects in the mirror. Yeah. That's the T-Rex chase scene. You get a chase scene in a vehicle with the samples of the dinosaurs in it that felt very Dennis Nedry. Chase scene. You get stuff that felt like the kitchen sequence in with Jurassic Park. You get that with these raptor birds in the gas station. Yeah. And there are so many different scenes like that I can say, okay, this is from Jurassic Park 1, this is from 3, this is from Jurassic World. But I think the biggest thing is the connection. Like, they mentioned the mosasaurs being tracked from Jurassic World. That's its only connection to Jurassic World. So they really only use a Jurassic World name as a name for the film. Like, it really had no other connection but that one made sense. Like, okay, you want to track down the mosasaur, you have a way to track it because of that. But the other two were just like, okay, well, how do you know these exist if these were secret mutation dinosaurs that they did, if this whole island area was a secret genetic base where they were doing all this stuff? That kind of plot got... And I felt like Scarlett Johansson's Zora was very kind of all over the place. She's supposed to be this highly skilled assassin type of person. But the very first time she gets the gun, she needs to shoot the mosasaurus, where she instantly fires it off randomly. Like, if someone is that skilled in shooting and being a mercenary like that, she's not going to have an accidental fire like that. And then she immediately fires within 3 seconds after that to hit it. But when she gets to the Titan, and I get the Titan because it's the splendor of seeing something so huge, it took her like 5 minutes, and then she shot a part that was way away instead of the part that was the closest right to her. Like, it just had a lot of questionable things with it. Yeah. Like going to the families, like they get separated. So at the family who had their sailboat tipped over and knocked over, they join in on the boat that is going after the mosasaurus and stuff. And they decide that they have to run towards the shallow ground to get away, and their boat ends up wrecking. But that also seemed like, well, they already turned away in the shallows. You could have slowed the boat down and saved the boat, but you ran it ashore. But, like, you have multiple Spinosauruses in the water, and we know that they can go on land. But none of them came on land. We actually have a death and stuff that happens by a Spinosaurus that's asleep on the beach who wakes up and takes somebody out. It just kind of like, wait, then why did we have those? And they're so afraid of those, and then like this and this whole island chain. There's nobody flying over to make sure no one's there. There's no boats patrolling. There's like one little fence. They never check any fences. We see the 10,000 volts, which, the throwback to Jurassic Park, and we see all the signage and stuff does not come in and the beach. But it's like gaps in the wires that a person could fit through, and Scarlett Johansson just goes up and cuts one, and then they just walk right through another one. They never think to check any of the high voltage lines. Like, it's got that kind of stuff. Like, it just felt like you got a good director, you got some good actors, but you got a script that was clearly rushed and thrown together to get another film out. Because this just felt like this is a film that's there to exist. It's not really moving the story forward. It's not really giving us much new. It's not setting up really a new franchise for them. Correct. It's just kind of a Jurassic movie that exists.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I do want to say we're being very nitpicky about the story and everything like that. There were some really good performances in this. I want to give like a little bit of love to Jonathan Bailey as Dr. Loomis. Like, he, in my opinion, really carries the heart of the film. Really, like, he does a good job with like his character and the direction he gives. He's kind of the moral compass of the story. Like, hey, I'm down to help you get this, but do we really want this rich corporation to have access to it where it's going to be? And this is kind of where they try to throw a little bit of real world implications into it. Like, do we really give this major pharmaceutical company access to it so they could jack up the price so it's expensive? It's a very American thing, but he's trying to play this moral compass. Is like, what if we don't help them, but we take these samples and just make it and give it to everybody and help everybody? And I think he did a fine job with that as kind of being like this moral compass of the film. I think Rupert Friend's great in everything he's in as well, and he's your corporate. Martin Krebs, the leader of the pharmaceutical company that's putting the mission together. He plays a good villain in this. Like, he's very.
You enjoyed disliking him.
Yeah, he was fun to root against.
Well, I mean, they tried to make him sympathetic at times because he felt like, let's just get this DNA and let's get out. Let's make sure everyone's safe. And then once the family shows up on the boat, that's when he starts turning into his villain.
A little bit, yeah, and he does a good job with that too. I kind of wanted to give a couple of those shout outs. There were some good performances in this from some of the actors. Like I said, Jonathan Bailey was fantastic at this. I'm very much looking forward to seeing him later this year in the Wicked sequel as well. I'm really enjoying the things I've seen him in so far, and he does a really good job of doing a lot of the heavy lifting from a character perspective in this film. So I kind of wanted to give him some props for this, because I really do feel like he was the shining spot in this movie for sure.
And to go back on my alien dinosaur thing, is even though I thought it was terrifying, we didn't get enough of it. But the D-Rex, it looked like a Rancor from Star Wars.
Very much. It felt like it was going to have a bigger role and a bigger impact in the movie than it wound up having, which is a little disappointing too, because you were hoping to have more from it. The last, 25-ish minutes of the movie, you get that dinosaur finally, and it's terrifying, truly, but
just not enough of it.
Not enough. Definitely not enough. And
that's the biggest one I say that felt alien, because he has the big, oversized arms, and then he has the little arms, but the face, I mean, he looked like a Rancor.
Well, they genuinely said he was based on the Xenomorph and the Rancor meets a T-Rex kind of
but
thing.
It just felt a little off. Like in the other mutations that they did through Jurassic World and stuff, hey, it made sense. It's a T-Rex and a Raptor. It's this and that. Then when you start making them look a little more alien, that's when it starts, okay, we've gone a little more, we've brought Alien to Jurassic Park.
Let's get that in the follow-up to the Alien sequel. Let's put the D-Rex in the...
You get a Predator, a D-Rex, and a Xenomorph together.
Why not? Just get that mutated dinosaur in
Predator riding the D-Rex.
That'd be awesome. That would be... I would love that, honestly. But, yeah, I mean, I wish it was a little bit more involved in it, but the dinosaurs that we did get, they were fine. Like, they had the elements of danger. You had your T-Rex scene, which everybody hopes for in a Jurassic Park movie.
Didn't really get a raptor scene. I think a lot of people were... You did, but you didn't.
I'm not going to spoil that for people. I want to spoil that for people. They're in very briefly, and I was surprised at how briefly they were actually in it, given how critical they were in the first.
It did feel like the dinosaurs were more cameos in a dinosaur movie than being the star of the dinosaur movie.
It was very much a dinosaur cameo film. Like, you get brief appearances from several different types.
Here's a Dilophosaurus. Here's this. Okay.
So you're just like, hey, I remember that dinosaur. All right, it's going to scatter off.
We don't see you again.
Yeah, goodbye. See you later. But, yeah, I mean, it felt like, and I hate to say it, like as I'm thinking about it as we're talking about it, it just felt very thrown together, and you kind of feel that rush nature of it, where there's elements of a good story here that I think could have been executed just a little bit better with some tightening up, but this is a case of what Universal wanted out of this film, like another film to kind of rush out there. We're going to write the script very quickly. You could clearly see the callbacks and trying to pay homage to the original Jurassic Parks. It's more of like a wink and a nod. If you're a fan of this and you've seen these, you'll have seen these scenes somewhere before. And I don't think it worked as well as they hoped it would.
Spent too much time on that aspect.
I think they focused a little bit too much on the winks and the nods instead of just giving us an advanced original story, which isn't the worst, but it's definitely not the strongest thing we've seen from this franchise, for sure.
Yeah, I want to wrap this up and close out with the ending. So we are going to go full spoiler even more with the ending here, because it could have ended strong and got a better grade, but it felt like it ended very weak to me, because I'm going to go back to kind of the beginning. I mean, you had the museum scene and you had the crew setup scene, but once you were on the boat, you've got the family being capsized by the Mosasaurus and the Spinosaurus. You then get the big military boat capsized by a battle with the Spinosaurus and Mosasaurus. So how does the film end? Well, you have a helicopter who is coming to check on them because they had a range. That helicopter gets used as a toothpick, so the only way they have to get away is a boat. So they go back. They're so happy to get in a boat and go back out on the ocean. I'm like, the main action, everything of this film happened because two boats got capsized by a Mosasaurus and a Spinosaurus. So you're all happy to get in a boat that's smaller than both of them and get back out in the ocean. Like, that just made no sense to me. Like, they're so excited and happy that they're alive to go back out into the ocean where the Mosasaurus and the Spinosaurus could go right back after them again. Like, it felt like wait, what? That's how we're going to end it, is them getting on a boat and going? Because it felt it had a lot of Jurassic Park 3 moments in this film to me. And that one kind of felt, that whole last sequence, even though it was fun, felt like a lot of Jurassic Park 3. But it's like, you have two boats that got destroyed in the ocean being too close to this island, and you have everybody leave on a boat.
You know what this reminds me of? And I know you're going to know where I'm going with this. It reminds me of that scene from Family Guy where it's like you're given two choices. But like a boat's a boat, but this could be anything. It could even be a boat. Like, but we're going to take the boat. We're going to take the box. But the box wasn't a boat. In this case, like, we could get out on a helicopter or a boat. But the obvious choice would be a helicopter. Obviously, it didn't work, but you want to get in the boat. I mean, you see where I'm going with that. But it was so silly. We're just like, oh, we're just gonna forget it. Like, hey, maybe the boat's not the worst option to get out of here. Like, it was literally their only option, but they were just like, yeah, let's get on the boat. And we're just like, the first half of the movie not happen because the practical first half of the entire film spent on a boat or like out at sea. But it was so silly. But yeah, it definitely just made me laugh at just the way to draw an end to this film is them, just jumping on a boat and leaving with no mention of a Spinosaurus or a Mesosaurus anywhere to be found. But
yeah, like no food, no supplies. Do they have enough gas to actually make it through the ocean or anything else? But the main thing's like, there's a Mosasaurus and Spinosaurus is out in the ocean. You're just going right back out.
Yep.
Like,
no problem, no thought. Like, we'll deal with the devil we know, I guess. But it just felt very silly, and I had to chuckle at that too. I'm like, I'm just for getting out of here on a boat. Like, it just comes full circle, back out on the water again, and you're just like, sure. But now there's dolphins, though. Like, we get to see the dolphins again, which is another callback. But
dolphin attacks him. No, it doesn't happen. But I was waiting for one last attack or something to happen at the end. But that's what also makes the ending more disappointing. Other than that, kind of okay, they're going back on a boat where they could be capsized and killed, and now they have nobody because the rescue crew has been killed and everything else. It didn't set up anything. Like, the only thing it set up was that they were going to take the samples back and release it to create all. There was nothing else that set up. Jurassic Park 2 kind of continued it, that it brought the dinosaurs to the mainland and stuff and back, and it was not the best, but you had some sort of continuation. Michael Crichton did have a book on it, which I haven't read, The Lost World, yet, so I plan on getting that. Jurassic Park 3 was very similar to this one in a way that, well, the kid, someone crash lands on the island, they have to go rescue him, even though there's some trickery and everything else into it. Then Jurassic World sets up, well, they redid the park, and you have all this, and, they set up, at least it makes sense, other than the third one, Dominion did have the cloning and the other kind of crazy stuff that happened. This really didn't set up anything. So, like, this is, like you said, it just exists. It just felt like they did a Jurassic Park, Jurassic World movie to do a Jurassic World movie. They didn't really care what it ended up being. Again, I don't think I'm really putting the blame on Gareth Edwards. I think the film looked great. It sounded great. It was well shot. It was the story. Like, the story was just really poorly slapped together, and it did go back to our worries that they greenlit a movie, casted the movie before there was a finished script.
Yeah, which, that's a big gamble to take. And, the unfortunate part about it is because they slap a Jurassic label on it, it's going to draw a huge crowd. I mean, like, we could talk about our theater experience. The theater was packed. It was completely full. Like, And it's going to be interesting to see how it performs at the box office, because I really do think it's going to do really well. But it's so funny because it's like you're darned if you do and darned if you don't, because how often do we talk about like, oh, we're so used to these being franchises and sequels and multiple trilogies. Like, I think this just kind of felt like a standalone film. Like, is it meant to lead to anything? Is there something? But like you said, it kind of ends on a definitive note, like, hey, we're out of here, we made it, we got our stuff, let's go make some medicine. What's going to be something that draws them back to ever want to go back to this island again?
The medicine turns everybody into dinosaurs.
Is there intention to possibly mutated people? But we were the dinosaurs the entire time.
That's how 28 Days Later was actually started.
It might be, but I just don't know, like, if it was intended to set up something, or if it was just meant to be this standalone Jurassic film that's not really meant to lead to anything else. We don't really know the intention or what the studio's going to want. Obviously, it's a high value intellectual property that they'll go back to at some point again, but is this going to tie into anything else? We don't know, and I don't know how I feel about that, because as a standalone movie, it's fine. Like, it's fine to be a standalone film that doesn't have to lead to something else, but was it meant to? We don't know. There's still a lot of answers to we still have a lot of questions that need answered, and if it's just meant to be a standalone film, okay, I'm fine. I'm accepting of that, because it does lead to a very definitive end of the film that didn't really set up anything. So like you said, if they try to follow up on this, what's going to be the motivation? That's a question for another time, so we could just kind of talk about the film as what it was. But yeah, we got what we got, and we'll see what our rankings come together for this.
I will say that I want to watch it again, but I want to see if I can just turn my brain off of like any expectations. All right, it's just a standalone. Yeah. It's doing all the throwbacks. Can I just have a fun time with it?
Sure.
Like, I still think it's better than probably Lost World and Jurassic Park 3, better than Dominion. But there's some kind of just, it could have been better. I think there was more hopes when you have someone like Gareth Edwards. You bring back the original writer of Jurassic Park for it. You're kind of expecting, all right, we've got a good writer, we've got a good director, we've got Scarlett Johansson doing, because she has always wanted to be in the Jurassic Park franchise, and she's in it. It just fell a little flat, because I feel in part ways how I felt about Alien Romulus, in a way that it spent too much, like Alien Romulus spent too much time on the throwbacks and making sure that it did, oh, hey, this, you remember this from Alien, you remember this from Aliens, you remember this, you remember that. And it didn't have enough time to really do anything new and interesting. And I kind of feel similar way here, that it didn't spend enough time doing anything really new and interesting, because it was spending so much time doing throwbacks and on the humans and the drama there, and the family feeling like they were just kind of shoehorned in for drama. Because in Jurassic Park, he invited his niece and nephew down, and that got you the kid and the family drama and stuff, and it made sense in that. And, Lost World, his daughter sneaks into that, and that was a little bit. But this one just literally felt like, okay, we're just going to have a family out in a sailboat that get attacked, and then they can get picked up, and then we'll just split them up for the entire movie until the very end, and we'll bring them back together. It felt like they had some good ideas, but because of the rush nature of it, nothing really came together that well. But it's so weird, because I enjoyed many parts of it.
Yeah.
It looked good. It sounded good. It had some good action sequences, but there's a lot of mistakes, a lot of problems.
Yeah, and it just goes to show, like, you can have an overall halfway decent film, and I think it's going to be reflected when we get to our rankings here in a second. But like, there's elements of it that it does do well. There's elements of it that it doesn't do well, that it definitely lacks. And where that holds in your and my rankings of a film, that what were we expecting and what are we getting, and where do those two things marry each other in this film? Because, I know you and I both were, for all intents and purposes, super hyped about this, as I'm sure a lot of people were, when you have, like you said, the original screenplay writer for the original film, and a talented director like Gareth Edwards, who it's kind of coming out a little bit more now that the studio definitely had their hands on this a little bit, and I think it very much feels like that after having seen it, because some of the choices that were made in the story just it feels very much like studios had their hands in it a little bit too much, and I think this movie definitely suffered from that.
This is one I would hope to see Gareth Edwards maybe do another one if it does well enough, so he can do what Fetty is potentially doing with his next Alien Romulus of like, all right, you've done your throwbacks, you've done your hints and winks and nods. Now go do something that's yours, that's original,
put your stamp
and everything else, and stamp, because it did feel like, well, he's directing it. And we had the same worries. You can go back sometime last year, I'll have to find where we talked about that it felt like it might be a directing by numbers. He's told to direct it this way, and that's the way he's kind of got to do it, and he's got that script to deal with. But Jurassic World Rebirth was a bit of a disappointment. Like, it can be fun. It's well shot. It's well acted. It has a good score. It has some horror elements to it. But the story didn't really work. It feels like so much stuff was forced. It has a ton of throwbacks and winks and nods that it never really felt like it has its own identity. Like, and to me, the dinosaurs felt more alien than dinosaur in a lot of the ways, and they were kind of a cameo more than the star of the film. So I'm still going to give it around probably a 6.5. Like, I don't think it's a horrible film. It's watchable. It just has a lot of problems with the story, just never really feeling that connected or interesting, and it doesn't really feel connected to really anything else in the Jurassic Park and Jurassic World franchise.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I'm giving it a little bit better. I'm going to be a little more forgiving and giving it a 7 because the things that it does well when we get it are done very well. Visually, it's stunning. It's a very well shot, like cinematography-wise, gorgeous. There are some good performances, like we said. I love Jonathan Bailey's Dr. Loomis. I love Rupert Friend as the kind of villain Martin Krebs in this. Mahershala Ali is just awesome. I love Scarlett Johansson, too. I feel like she was a little bit... I don't think she was written as well as she could have been in this film, and I think she kind of did the best with what she had. But when it gets the elements right, it really does a good job. There just wasn't enough of it that worked to make this a more special film. Like you said, when they got around to the action sequences with the dinosaurs, they were done well, but it wasn't as prevalent in this, and it didn't feel like there was as much of that element of danger from these dinosaurs that they could have dove a little further on, in my opinion, and that definitely has to knock it down. So I'm knocking it down to a 7, but still an overall solid movie. I do kind of want to go back, like you said, and rewatch it, maybe under the assumption that it's not meant to set anything else up and it's meant to be kind of a standalone film, and I want to see if it affects my ability to enjoy the film, knowing that this may be just a one-off deal and we may not revisit these characters or this element of this story again because we just don't know. Like, we don't know what the intent is beyond this, and will I be a little more forgiving of it, or will I be more critical of it because it is a standalone? You had one shot and this is what we got kind of thing. Like, I don't know where my mind's going to land on it, so I do want to watch it again. By all means, go see this film in the theaters. This is one of those that is meant to be seen on a big screen, and you get that, you know, sound element well done, T-Rex initial introduction aside, but they do a really good job with a lot of the sound elements in this too, and you get that feel in the theater. It's one of those definitely meant to be seen there.
Yeah, this one, I'm still, even after all we've discussed and talked about, I'm still so torn on it because I want to like it.
Yeah.
I want to like it, but every time I think about the details and everything about it, like, it didn't really take us. It felt like they were moving through the story a little too easily, even though a lot of people died. But you kind of figured these characters were going to have it. Just something didn't work with the script. Again, Gareth Edwards directed a great looking film. The sound was great. The action sequences were good. There's just something that it missed. It missed with the cohesiveness of it, but it missed with giving us something new and original to it. The only thing you could really say that's new and original to it, other than getting samples for medicine, but that's kind of the same as taking DNA that Dennis Nedry did and stuff, is the D-Rex. But again, the D-Rex was very alien-like, and we didn't get enough of it. Yeah. So yeah, I'm still torn on it. That's why I want to watch it again. It probably won't be until it comes out on demand. Sure. And I check it out then at home to see if my brain is able to just disconnect and watch it for what it is and not for potential expectations. Because you think, you've got 3 Jurassic Park, you got 3 Jurassic World, you're expecting if they did another one, it's going to be kicking off a new trilogy or a new something else, and it just really didn't.
Yeah, and we just don't know. We don't know the direction that the studio is going to go with this. Is it meant to be a one-off? Is it meant to kick off something more? If it's meant to kick off something more, we don't know what that's going to look like. But, we'll see what the future of this franchise looks like. Like we said, it's a multi-billion-dollar intellectual property that they are, that Universal is fully integrated in everything they do. You go to a Universal theme park, there's Jurassic stuff all over the place. They have rides. They have their own stuff there. Like, it's not going anywhere. It's just, what is the future of this going to look like now after what we were given here? Does the film do well? Like we said, the theater was packed when we went and seen it. It's probably going to commercially do pretty solid.
I think at least the first weekend is going to do really well. We'll see the return, how that's going to look.
That second weekend's going to be key, but as we know, the clock moves forward, and there's another huge tentpole film that's coming out next week that may impact how this one does at the box office, which I love to see the competitiveness of it. We'll see if the audiences hold strong the second weekend for it, and we'll see how it does. But Jurassic World Rebirth is in theaters now. Go check it out. Come to our YouTube comments. Come to our Discord. Let us know what you think of the film if you've seen it. If you think we're being too critical of it, let us know. If you think we're being too soft, trust me, you have no problem letting us know if we're too friendly on these films. So let's have that conversation. Let us know what you think.
Yeah, we would love to discuss with everybody, but that's going to do it for this show. And me and Josh are going to go rest and relax and recoup from this weekend. But yeah, if you check out any of these movies, come talk to us. We would love to discuss them to see if you saw something different than we did. But we're really excited for next week because we do get an early screening of Superman, which is going to potentially be a make or break for Warner Brothers and DC, depending on how it does. It's tracking pretty decently right now, but I'm really excited to see what Superman does. We'll also be reviewing Ironheart and seeing, after all this time, the series was filmed during COVID. She last showed up in the second Black Panther film. We finally got her standalone 6-episode series. We're excited to talk about that. But thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one.
To find all of the episodes of We'll Bring the Popcorn, go to our YouTube page, hit the like and subscription button so you're getting our episodes when they drop each and every Monday. If you're listening to us in the audio realm on any of the podcasting platforms that we're on, please don't forget to give us a 5-star review. It really helps elevate the profile of the show. And don't forget to go to willbringthepopcorn.com, where it has all of our archive videos, all of our social media information, as well as our merch store, so you continue to support the show in that way. We cannot thank you enough for your continued support.